Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Fiberflux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this really easy and cute superhero pencil topper. I've made a little cape, an outfit, some yarn hair, a felt superhero belt, and of course, the superhero mask. This is a fun way to kind of spruce up a plain old pencil. And for this project, you're going to need some worsted weight yarn. I used Red Heart Super Saver. I used red and blue for the capes, kind of classic superhero colors. And then for this yarn hair, I used a dark brown, it's called Coffee, and then this bright yellow. And you can really customize the hair. I did kind of like little ponytails, but I'm going to show you how to, if you want a different hairstyle, to kind of trim it up. And I'll show you how to do that later. You're also going to need a 5mm H crochet hook, a tapestry needle, a pair of scissors, a hot glue gun, and also you'll need some scrap pieces of felt or fabric. For the little belts, I used red and gray for this one, and then this was some leftover t-shirt material, some jersey knit. So like this one has a blue and a gray belt, and then I did the little masks with a little, just a tiny little bit of red felt with the eye holes with just some little bits of black felt. You'll also need a pencil. We're going to be gluing some things onto this pencil, so it'll make the eraser covered up, so the eraser won't be able to use. So use a pencil that you don't mind gluing things onto. So let's get started. One of my pencil toppers here I have not glued yet, so I'm going to take it all apart and just show you the individual parts and how we're going to be putting them all together and constructing it. So first we're going to have our belt. This is our belt. It's just a rectangle of fabric or felt, whatever you have on hand. This is a great way to use little scraps. And then a little square of gray or whatever color you have. Yellow might be nice too. And then this is our little mask. It's just a little piece of felt and two little bits of black for the eyes. And then I have, again, this hasn't been glued yet. I have the yarn hair. It's just some yarn with some loops at one end to hook it onto the eraser. And then our cape. The cape is worked from the bottom up. It's worked flat, and I'll show you how to do all this in just a moment. And then we've wrapped the red part around, seamed it up, and then kind of flipped the cape down. And that slides right onto the pencil. And you can just use this as is, or if you want to put the fun face and hair on there too. Okay, so let's get started. Now again, I'm just using some worsted weight yarn, and there's lots and lots of superheroes out there. So just pick your favorite one in their colors that they wear. So what you're going to do is we're going to put a slip knot on our hook to begin. So we're going to wrap the yarn around our fingers, bring the yarn behind this loop that we just made, reach in with your crochet hook and bring up the loop, then tighten. So to begin, we're going to chain 6. Again, we're going to be working this part here I did in blue. We're going to be doing that first, but we're going to be doing ours in red. Kind of the reverse of what I've done here. So we're going to chain 6 to begin. To make a chain, wrap the yarn around the hook and bring it through the loop. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Next, we're going to work row 1. So in the second chain from the hook, this loop here does not count. So count 2 chains, 1 and 2. We're going to work a single crochet. Insert your hook into the chain and bring up a loop. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops. That's the single crochet. So we're going to work a single crochet in each chain all the way across to the end. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so row 1 is complete. To work row 2, we're going to chain 1, turn our work over, then single crochet in the first stitch, and in each stitch all the way across. So again, we're working from the bottom up. So this will be the bottom edge of your pencil topper. And this is just wide enough for the pencil topper to stay on without sliding around, but it is still easy to take off and put back on. Okay, so row 2 is complete. So what we're going to do is we're going to repeat row 2 until our pencil part, the part that wraps around the pencil, this blue part, is about 1.5 inches tall. If you want to make yours taller or shorter, that's fine. It'll just, this part here will just change in height. But I worked mine until about 1.5 inches tall. So just repeat row 2 until it's about 1.5 inches tall, and then we will rejoin in just a moment. Okay, so I went ahead and worked row 2 until my little red section of my cape was about 1.5 inches tall. So what you're going to do next is go ahead and take your scissors and cut the yarn, and then you can just fasten off. We're going to grab our second color next because we're going to start working on the cape part of our pencil topper. So what we're going to do is we're just going to tie the new color right on. Now if you have a way of joining yarn that you prefer, definitely feel free to do that at this time. So we're just going to insert the hook into the last stitch that we worked and then bring the new yarn through, and then you can just tie it right on. We can get this little tail out of the way. We're going to be weaving the tails in as we go. So you just tie that right on to the end there. And then we're ready to begin working the cape. Okay? So what you're going to do is just take these two little tails and lay them along the top there. And then reinsert your hook back into that stitch, keeping those tails on top like that, and then bring up a loop just like that. Now chain 1 and turn. Again, we're keeping the tails along the edge as we work. So back in that first stitch, this very first stitch, you're going to insert the hook into the first stitch and work a single crochet, and then in the same stitch work another single crochet. So 2 single crochets in that first stitch. Then you're going to work a single crochet in the next stitch, a single crochet in the next stitch. So in each one of these stitches across until you get to the last stitch. Again, we're holding these tails. And then in that very last stitch, you're going to work 2 single crochets. So what we're doing is we're creating this kind of triangular cape shape. It's not going to look like much now because we're just starting with, but by working 2 single crochets on either end like this, it's going to make it start to kind of flare outward like a cape. Okay, so what I'd like to do at this time is to just take these tails that we wove in, just give them a tug, kind of pull them through a little bit, and just trim, taking care not to trim the part that's connected to our yarn ball. And then you can just kind of pull that back into shape. Okay, so what we're going to do is continue with this row in the written pattern on the Fiberflex glove. This is row 3 that we just worked. So you're going to keep repeating row 3 until your cape is as long and wide as you want it to be. And my cape, let's see, I didn't jot this down, but let's see, the cape that I did from the red part to the end was just under 2 inches. Okay, so you're going to work that for about 2 inches or just under like I did. So what we're going to do is just keep repeating row 3. So just chain 1 and turn. In the first stitch, work 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. We have a little bit of red showing right there, so we can just get that out of the way. And then work a single crochet in each stitch all the way across till you get to the end there. And this red, I think this was our knot from before, so we'll take care of that on this part here. So just work 2 single crochets at the end. Okay, so I'm going to keep repeating row 3, and then we'll rejoin in just a moment when we're about halfway through, and then I'll show you the end part. Okay, so I'm just continuing with row 3. And we have a few more rows to go, but I did want to show you that our little cape is starting to look more cape-like. It's starting to flare out like our original cape here. Okay, so just keep repeating until the cape is a little bit longer. Okay, so our cape is as long as we want it to be, and I'm just going to cut the yarn. Go ahead and fasten that off. And we can see, if we flip up this other cape, we can see everything's about the same size. It doesn't have to be exact, it's a pencil topper, so no big deal. And then what you want to do is this tail here, the very last tail that you had, you want to take and thread your tapestry needle, and then just go in one direction with it. You want to keep the blue in the blue section so you won't see it as well. You don't want it to go down into the red section. Okay, so just come in one direction, go back in the other direction, and then just take your scissors and trim. Now, if your tail is long enough, which mine is, you can just keep that on there and we can use that to sew this little red section together. If your tail is very short, just weave that tail in and then you can take a length of red and thread your tapestry needle and sew it up that way. So we're now ready to assemble our little cape. So I just wanted to take a minute and just measure everything. Everything's measuring about 3 inches high or so, give or take. Doesn't have to be exact at all. So we're going to get our yarn out of the way and grab our tapestry needle, and we're ready to put it together. So let's take this one off for a moment, and then we'll take this one so we can hold it on there. So what you want to do is just lay your pencil down, and then you can just lay it like that, and take your tail or your length of yarn, whatever you're using, and then just thread your tapestry needle. Now fold the red part inward like that, kind of like a little jacket for your pencil. And then what you can do is take this part, the cape part, and fold it down, okay? So what you're going to do is, starting at the bottom, just go in and seam it up. We can shape all of this at the end and get it nice and neat looking. We're just going to sew this up all the way to the top of the red section only. Okay, so we're just sewing all the way up to this red part. Just like that, okay? Next, when we come out from that last stitch, still have our tail, just go back in to that last loop and go back in like that, and then just tie it, and that'll make a knot. Okay, so you can kind of shape all this up a little bit if you need to. And then we'll fix our cape in just a minute. It's kind of crumpled right now because I've been holding it. So just take your, I pulled mine out, but if you still have it threaded, that's great. So just take that and go and just weave that tail into the pencil topper. And then you can pull that down and trim that yarn. Okay, now we can shape everything. So this red part, you just want to, that seam that we made, just get it nice and kind of flatten it out with your thumb. And then take this cape. And because we did this single crochet stitch, you can see this cape is pretty stiff. So just, if you need to pull it out a little bit, shape it up. So once your cape is done, you can just put it right onto the pencil again. Straighten everything out, and then we're going to do the hair. So I'm going to go with this brown hair. So what you're going to do is you're going to let the piece hang down in the front, and then you're going to wrap the yarn around all 4 of your fingers about 12 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay? Give or take. If you want to do a few more, that's fine. If you want to do less, that's fine too. Just about 12 times. Okay? So then carefully slide this little bundle out from your fingers. Keep everything nice and straight and together. Then you're going to cut a piece of yarn about 6 to 8 inches long, and then go ahead and tie it towards the top. If you've ever made a tassel, this is very similar to making a tassel. So we're just tying our little piece of yarn towards the top, just like that. Okay, so tie it really, really tight and then put a knot in that as well. Okay, so holding these tops, so you're gonna have like some shorter top loops and some longer bottom loops. So holding these little loops, flip it over to the long part. So the long part is facing up and you're gonna have all these loops and kind of loose ends. So just take your scissors and just cut a neat line straight across. Just like that. You can kind of get that out of the way. Just like that. And then our hair is complete. So it only takes a few seconds to make the hair part. Then you're gonna take the shorter loops, kind of open those up and get them all lined up. I have to kind of feel around a little bit. Then grab your pencil with the cape and then slide those loops onto the eraser. Just like that. And you have like this little ponytail. And you might have to, if you have some long pieces, you might have to kind of lift them up and kind of arrange it just so. So your superhero now has some hair and their superhero outfit. So then let's add some of their accessories, okay? So we're gonna make a mask next. So take your whatever yarn, your felt, whatever felt color you'd like to use. Again, whatever you have on hand. Just cut out a little rectangle with your scissors, just like that. And then you're just gonna snip off these corners. Just kind of round it so it looks more like a mask. Round these little corners. And the fun thing about these pencil toppers is when you're giving this to a child, you can try and make it look like them. So with their hair color and things, maybe their superhero is going to have a cape of their favorite color. And again, I wanted to mention you can put this ponytail in the back also. And if you want short hair, you can just snip it short. Or you can braid it, or you can do whatever you want. It's your superhero, so you can personalize it however you want. So we've cut the corners off, and then I'm just gonna cut like 2 little notches. It's 2 little triangles to make it look more like a mask. Just on the top and the bottom. Just to get that mask shape that we're after, okay? And then you can hold it up. I'm gonna trim mine just a little bit more. Okay, so once you have your mask, get all these little scraps out of the way. Once you have your mask on here, you can kind of lay it towards the bottom of the hair. Like that. We're just laying everything out and we'll be gluing it up in a minute. Then you can take your black felt, or you could even do the child's eye color. If you have some brown or some blue or some green, you can do eye colors. It's really customizable. I'm just cutting 2 teeny tiny little bits of black for the mask eyes. Just like that. Okay, you can kind of line these up if you want to a little better than I'm doing here. Okay, we're just kind of laying that at the bottom of the hair. Then we're going to make a belt. I have here some blue. I thought blue would be nice. You could even take some yarn, cut a little piece of yarn and do it that way. Or you can take a little piece of fabric. My other superhero, I did a felt belt. This is some jersey knit fabric I had on hand. Then we're just going to cut a rectangle for the belt. And if you have some things you'd like to add, maybe you have a favorite superhero and you'd like to have their, all those superheroes have their own symbols. If you want to add a symbol onto yours, you can do that as well. Or even the child's letter of their first name. So anyway, we're going to lay our blue belt across here. And then I wanted to do a belt buckle. So I had some gray felt. I'm just going to cut a little square of gray and lay it on top. So our superhero is all finished. We just have to glue her up. So while I was making this, I plugged my hot glue gun in, and then we can glue it all together. So once all the parts are cut and assembled and you like the placement, then you can glue it. So this one has already been glued, so we're going to set this one aside for a moment. And this one we have not glued yet. So I have the mask, the hair, the belt, and the cape. So what we're going to do is put the cape on first. So what I did was just put a little strip of glue down the back part where it's not going to show, down the back of the pencil. Then flip it over and slip it back on. And then just kind of slide it over top of where you've put the glue. And then just kind of like press it into place. Okay? My pencil has a little smiley. I originally had a little face on mine, but the hair ended up covering it. So we did a mask instead. Okay, so you can just straighten all that out. Then we're ready to add the hair. So again, we have these loops. So what I did was I just put some glue all over this eraser. Like I said before, this eraser is not going to be functional anymore. So just make sure you're using a pencil that you're okay with doing that. Okay, and then get all these loops straightened out, and then you can just slide that right onto the eraser. And if you need to add a little bit more glue to the top, if it's not laying flat, you want it to kind of look like it's the superhero's head. So if you get as round of a head shape as possible. And again, if you want a different hairstyle, you can trim, you can braid it, anything you like. Okay, so let's do the belt next. What I did was added, at this point you want to flip the cape up to keep the glue away from it. But you can just do just a little tiny stripe of glue around where the waist part would be. And with hot glue, less is definitely more. Tends to blob and ooze around. Okay, and then you can just lay, actually it might help if we lay this down. You just lay that right on top. Just carefully, without burning yourself. Get that fabric down onto that glue. Okay, now you can do a dot of glue on top of the belt for the belt buckle. Just press that into place. Then we're ready for the mask. Get that all straightened out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these little the little eye holes out first. And just put a little, actually I'm going to put it onto this part here. Just going to put a little bit of glue along the mask. It's the tiniest little bit. You only need a little tiny bit. Hot glue works really good on fabric and yarn because it really gets down into those fibers. And it kind of locks it into place. So we have our mask. Then we're going to do the tiniest drops of glue for these little eye holes. If you have two little beads, you can use those as well if you would prefer. You could do like a green bead or a blue bead or something like that. So then you have your two tiny little bits of felt that we've cut previously. And if you're having trouble getting them positioned, you can take your tapestry needle and kind of like use that to position everything. And then if you have these little strings, you can either pull them off or a hair dryer does a really good job of removing those as well. So just press everything into place, shape it up, make sure nothing's crooked, and your little superhero is complete. So then when you're done, just let them sit for a little bit and let the glue completely cool and dry. And then you can sharpen up. Mine aren't sharpened yet. You can sharpen your pencil and they're ready to conquer homework or what have you. So that is how you make a superhero pencil topper. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.